Welcome to the Allison Knows podcast. Today we're embarking on a truly fascinating deep dive into a royal narrative that has not only captivated, but often, let's be honest, confounded the world. We're talking about the intertwined lives of Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson, the Duke and Duchess of York. Their story, well, it really transcends mere royalty, doesn't it? It's a compelling exploration of privilege, relentless public scrutiny, profound personal struggles, and an enduring, pretty complex bond that just defies conventional expectations.
Yeah, absolutely. And our mission today is to really unpack the rich tapestry of sources we've looked at, articles, in-depth research, insider insights that hopefully reveal the full, nuanced picture of their journey. We'll meticulously explore the key moments that, sculpted their public image, the formidable challenges they faced, and the profound impact they had both individually and together on the monarchy and on public perception. Think of this as your essential shortcut, really, to understanding the rise and the dramatic fall and actually the surprising resilience of the House of York. We're aiming for those aha moments, maybe some facts you haven't come across before.
Exactly. And as engaged learners, you're about to gain a thorough yet, we hope, incredibly accessible understanding of a story just brimming with unexpected turns. This deep dive will offer you a unique lens into how the demands of royal life, deeply ingrained personal flaws, and that intense media scrutiny can converge, sometimes with devastating consequences. So, as we begin to explore how these two individuals navigated such an extraordinary, often turbulent existence, maybe start thinking what already stands out to you about their journey.
Right. We'll begin by laying the groundwork, looking at their early lives and those formative experiences that really sculpted their characters. From there, we'll trace their whirlwind romance and that initial public adulation that quite dramatically soured. Didn't take long, did it?
No, it really didn't.
Then we'll delve deep into the many scandals that plagued them, ranging from, financial recklessness right up to the most serious allegations that ultimately led to Andrew's public disgrace. And finally, we'll analyze that enduring, complicated relationship that continues to bind them even today and explore the broader implications their story holds for the British monarchy as an institution.
It promises to be an extraordinary and revealing journey. And I think what better place to start than at the very beginning? Let's turn our attention to those formative years that truly set the stage for their unique characters. Starting with Prince Andrew and a childhood, well, undeniably defined by a distinct kind of privilege.
Indeed. Prince Andrew's birth, February 19th, 1960, right there at Buckingham Palace. That is a pretty big deal historically. He was the first child born to a reigning monarch since Queen Victoria had Princess Beatrice way back in 1857. So that immediately set him apart. But more than that, he arrived as part of what was sort of affectionately known as the Queen's second family. He came a full 12 years after Charles and a decade after Anne. And this timing, it actually allowed the Queen to combine her royal duties with motherhood, well, more easily than she had with her first two. They'd had been sent off to boarding school much younger.
Ah, okay. And it sounds like this second family status had a really profound and lasting effect, almost shaping his destiny from the get-go. The Queen herself, in a rather prescient observation, apparently noted that he was going to be terribly spoilt by all of us. Can you elaborate on how this indulgence, actually manifested, especially compared to Charles and Anne? What kind of environment did that create for him?
Well, that prophecy, as you say, really came true. Andrew was indulged in a way his older siblings just weren't. He was pretty much treated like an only child for 4 years until Prince Edward was born in 1964. And this created an environment where, almost from the beginning, he developed this really strong sense of entitlement, a trait maybe not quite so shared by his siblings. Sources consistently describe him as, well, willful, exuberant, gregarious, but also undisciplined, aggressive, often with a notably limited attention span. Evelyn Muir Bell, who was on the Windsor staff for over 2 decades, 73 to 95, she actually remembered him as the most troublesome royal among all the kids. That's quite a label.
The most troublesome role that's quite something to earn, even as a child. And there's that illustrative anecdote from when he was young that seems to capture this early sense of his own importance. He was just 6, apparently, told a playmate he was a prince, only to be countered by the playmate saying king, which the story goes seemed to shut him up. It really highlights that early, almost innate understanding of his position, but maybe also a bit of naivety about the world outside palace walls.
Precisely. And these early traits, they clearly presented a challenge for his educators and the royal household. So, to try and instill some discipline, Andrew was sent to Heatherdown, a prep school with strong royal ties, when he was 8, probably on the suggestion of the Earl of Carnarvon. It was there he made a lifelong friend, Charles Butter. But then his time at Gordonstown, starting in 1973, well, that painted a slightly different picture. He was described as loud, prone to lacking judgment, and enthusiast. Yes, very competitive, but also, interestingly, a bit lazy. He even got a direct talking to by Prince Philip, which gives you a sense of the kind of behavioral challenges he posed, even in that structured environment. And adding another layer of pressure, it was also during this time that an IRA plot to kidnap him was uncovered. Serious stuff.
Wow. So, a childhood marked by both attempts at discipline and those undeniable, unique royal circumstances. Then, at 16, he goes on his first foreign tour, the Montreal Olympics in '76. This sounds like it was a pretty significant turning point, especially for his confidence and public image. Easy manner, handsome looks. One Canadian paper called him 6 feet of sex appeal. That must have been a huge boost to his already strong sense of self-worth.
Oh, undoubtedly. Yeah, that tour really cemented his public image as a useful poster boy for the monarchy, even at that young age, a role he seemed to quite enjoy. After this, he started his naval career at Dartmouth Naval College in '79. Now, apparently he initially struggled a bit switching from being royal to just being a naval officer, often sources say sort of putting his prince's hat on when he wanted his own way. But eventually, he found his stride as a helicopter pilot. Under an instructor who gave him some crucial confidence, he really excelled. And famously, he was awarded the prize for best pilot on his passing out parade in '81, presented by his own father, Prince Philip. So this period showed he could achieve, but maybe he needed specific conditions or encouragement to really apply himself fully.
A truly complex and privileged start, then, for Andrew. But his story is just one side of this coin, isn't it? Let's shift focus now to Sarah Ferguson. Her early life was marked by a very different set of circumstances, particularly profound loss and the insecurity that came with it.
Yeah, Sarah's childhood was profoundly shaped by her mother leaving when Sarah was just 12. Her mother left the family for another man, and Sarah tragically blamed herself for the divorce. This deeply impacted her, leading to comfort eating, and later she talked about intense insecurity, a pervasive feeling of worthlessness, a desperate need to please others, and real difficulty forming stable relationships. She was continuously looking for a secure, almost father figure, a dynamic that would really influence her romantic choices later on.
That's just such a heavy burden for a child to carry, blaming herself for her parents splitting up. And the trauma didn't stop there, did it? There was also the tragic loss of her third sibling, Sophie, who died shortly after birth. And again, Sarah, in her young mind, blamed herself, linking it to a childhood incident where she'd been slacked by her mother, and her mother subsequently fell.
Oh, it's just incredibly deep-seated trauma that seems to have fundamentally shaped her.
Absolutely. Those early devastating experiences undoubtedly contributed hugely to her developing certain coping mechanisms. At school, she became known as the class joker, maybe a way to seek attention, perhaps mask her inner turmoil and insecurity. She was often described as enthusiastic and anxious to please, but also erratic in her work and behavior. She herself admitted later to trying too hard, having no limits, and inundating people with my neediness in relationships, which, ironically, often led to the very rejection she was terrified of. It's a clear and quite poignant pattern of desperately seeking validation.
Yeah, heartbreaking to hear about that cycle. But she did have some areas where she naturally excelled, which must have provided some kind of solace. Both her parents were skilled equestrians, and Sarah herself was apparently a natural rider, winning lots of rosettes. Her mother, Susan, even thought she was one of the most naturally gifted riders she'd seen. That must have given her a rare sense of accomplishment in a turbulent childhood.
It did, yeah. It provided a small but significant anchor. But those feelings of abandonment came flooding back powerfully when she was 14. Her mother left permanently, and her sister Jane moved to Australia. She felt like both key women in her life had abandoned her, intensifying that ingrained sense of being alone and unmoored. This early void played a really significant role in her later search for security through romance.
Which brings us to her early romantic life. She became besotted with Paddy McNally, a guy 22 years older than her. She called him the Toad, which, well, from the sources, it sounds like a difficult, maybe even emotionally tough relationship.
It sounds like it was. She apparently endured poor treatment, teasing about her weight, blatant infidelity, cruel insults like being called fat and ugly. Despite all this, she desperately wanted to marry him, openly admitting she was afraid to let the relationship go to be on my own. That deep-seated fear of abandonment and her search for a secure, almost paternal figure really came through strongly. In fact, even her own father questioned if she was in love with the royal family more than Andrew himself, hinting at maybe ambition mixed with that search for belonging. Her early career also reflected this mix of traits. Temping, then a PR firm where she got criticized for too many personal calls, but was also noted as being remarkably reliable when needed. A telling dichotomy.
Okay, so on one side, Prince Andrew indulged from birth, a useful poster boy who sometimes struggled with discipline. On the other, Sarah Ferguson, marked by early loss, constantly seeking security and attention. These two very distinct paths converged, and what followed was initially presented to the world as, well, nothing less than a fairy tale royal romance.
It truly was, at least in the beginning. Andrew's public image was flying high after his service in the Falklands in '82. He was immediately hailed as a genuine war hero and quickly dubbed his royal heartthrob. His role as a helicopter pilot involved some exceptionally high-risk tasks, like acting as a decoy for those deadly Exocet missiles. He even recalled a close call with a chaff shell, underscores the dangers he faced.
Right, and while there were later some disputes about, maybe exaggerating his bravery, a colleague confirmed he wasn't shielded from danger. Protecting the carrier was paramount, so this war hero narrative really endeared him to the public, set the stage perfectly. Then Sarah enters the scene, and her initial public perception was overwhelmingly positive, wasn't it? She was really embraced.
Absolutely. Sarah was widely seen as a genuine breath of fresh air, a vibrant, unpretentious contrast to the more reserved royals. People appreciated her, her silly faces, sense of humor, irreverence, her down-to-earth manner, her ebullience. She brought this perceived vitality that was genuinely welcomed. Interestingly, Andrew, choosing Sarah, who wasn't his usual type, not a glamorous model or actress, initially went largely unnoticed by the press. It suggests maybe a more organic start to their connection.
Which speaks to how genuinely different she seemed. Their royal wedding in '86 was, by all accounts, a huge spectacle. Yet even amidst all that pomp, there were glimpses of the complexities that would later define them. Andrew apparently sort of broached marriage under family pressure, maybe feeling lonely on the rebound. And Sarah, for her part, confided she was petrified about what she was letting herself in for.
That anxiety from Sarah is really telling, isn't it? Even then, she moved into Andrew's suite at Buckingham Palace before the wedding, a space she remembered later as an absolute time warp. Stuffed animals, boys' guns, bachelor stuff.
Huh.
The wedding day itself, July 23, '86, was lavish. 5-tiered, 240-pound cake cut with a ceremonial sword. But Sarah's personal feelings, as she recounted later, reveal something deeper. She found the wedding lunch lavish and proper and dull, wishing for a regular bride experience, funny speeches, toasts, a desire for normalcy she wasn't going to get.
That's a poignant detail, that desire for something more personal amidst the huge public show. Despite her feelings, the public absolutely loved the imagery, like the horse-drawn carriage leaving for the honeymoon on Britannia, famously with a big teddy bear and a phone home sign. It looked for a moment like a storybook ending.
It did, a perfect fairy tale for the cameras. But the cracks started showing almost immediately. Andrew quickly squandered that public credit he'd earned in the Falklands. By '84, just 2 years after being a war hero, he was named Twit of the Year for things like turning a spray gun on reporters. His affair with Koo Stark became huge tabloid fodder, especially after her letters and even a home movie were stolen from her flat. He even gave her a T-shirt saying, "Here comes trouble," which in hindsight was remarkably prophetic, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. And the stories just kept coming, eroding his image further. There was the brief affair with Vicky Hodge, Brushhead, she was called. She recounted how Andrew would count down during, intimacy, a technique Koo had apparently taught him. Hodge herself called him headstrong, immature, and predicted he needed someone with strength and authority to stop his escapades. Seems Andrew consistently underestimated public scrutiny.
That observation from Vicky Hodge turned out to be pretty accurate. His popularity plummeted. He became the Queen's #1 headache, considered one of the silliest princes. He had this tendency to blame others for his own mistakes, a trait a naval colleague, Ralph Wyke-Snade, saw as a real turning point in public perception. Another naval colleague pointed out Andrew's strong sense of entitlement, this belief he didn't have to earn respect, and a distinct, no great interest in other people. These behaviors really chipped away at his early popularity.
So Andrew's charm was quickly overshadowed by this perception of arrogance and immaturity. Meanwhile, Sarah, initially the breath of fresh air, also started facing intense scrutiny, particularly for what was seen as her lack of decorum. A prime example that really set the tone was that infamous It's a Royal Knockout in 1987. What did that event really reveal about her?
Ooh, It's a Royal Knockout. Yeah, that was pivotal. Prince Edward's brainchild, this medieval-themed celebrity tournament. Courtiers had strongly advised against it, but it went ahead, and it brutally highlighted Sarah's perceived lack of decorum. made many question if she was maybe too much of a breath of fresh air. Her exuberance, her social gaps, her obvious enjoyment of a good time, things that initially endeared her quickly became liabilities in the eyes of the establishment and the media.
I remember that vividly. There was that extraordinary incident with Meatloaf, Andrew trying to push him into a moat for paying too much attention to Sarah, allegedly saying, "You can't touch me, I'm royal." And Sarah herself leading her team in this boisterous lap of honor, looking like the captain of a girls' hockey team. It felt like a public signal that tolerance for her unconventional style was wearing thin.
It certainly was. The criticisms mounted rapidly. She was accused of being indiscreet, irresponsible, inappropriate. Her growing imperiousness and reluctance to conform earned her enemies in court circles and the press. The media then just relentlessly went after her for her weight, her perceived vulgarity, and all those freebie holidays she took.
And the freebies became a huge recurring theme, didn't they? Criticized for taking 9 holidays in 9 months in '87 alone, staying in incredibly lavish places like that $3,000 a night presidential suite at the Waldorf Towers, partying late, big catering bills. Someone quipped, well, she certainly knows her vintages. Reports of her insisting maids call her ma'am, curtsy, requiring hours of cooking, then deciding to eat out. It painted a picture of someone enjoying the perks without the expected conduct.
And this perceived lack of responsibility led straight into exploiting her royal position for personal gain, which became a huge issue. She was deeply frowned on by the palace for selling private photos of her domestic life to Hello for £250,000. Clear monetization of her status. Her budgie, the little helicopter, books an £85,000 deal, faced plagiarism accusations and controversy over charity donations. Claims were made that all proceeds would go to charity, but it was only 10%. Reviewers were unkind. Fergie never misses a cliche. I don't think budgie stands anywhere, seen as blatantly cashing in on their position.
So not just image issues, but serious questions about leveraging her status for cash. This financial recklessness led to mounting debts the Queen reportedly had to cover several times. She was known for exploiting her status to avoid paying bills at Harrods and other places. The unraveling was quite public.
And it all culminated in one of the most publicly humiliating royal scandals ever. The infamous toe-sucking photos of 1992, compromising images of Sarah with her financial advisor, John Bryan, published while she was on holiday with Andrew and the kids at Balmoral. Talk about timing. This instantly portrayed her as greedy and willful, a liar, an adulteress, an unfit mother. Brutal.
The reaction was ferocious. Calls to kick her out. The Daily Star front page literally roaring that. There are still conflicting accounts about who leaked the photos, Diana, the Palace for Damage Control. Bryan himself believed photographers had scoped out the location. Deliberate targeting.
Yeah, and despite Bryan initially trying to stop publication, he then, with incredible irony, sold his own story, just adding fuel to the fire. But this bizarre situation had an unexpected outcome. The huge media pressure actually pushed Andrew and Sarah closer, forging this kind of us-against-the-world bond. Yet, despite this newfound closeness, divorce was inevitable. The settlement included £300K for her overdraft, a house, £1.4 million in trust for the girls. She kept custody but lost her official duties. Memorabilia related to her was even pulled from the Windsor Castle gift shop, a stark symbol of her reduced status. Remember her watching Ascot from the roadside as the Queen waved past Beatrice. Really visual.
Incredibly impactful imagery, yeah.
Yes.
A public ostracization. Even after the divorce, her financial struggles and staff issues continued. She kept this lavish lifestyle, employing 17 staff, cook, driver, maids, butler, nanny. There's that memorable anecdote about an accountant asking staff what they did, getting replies like, "I pick up the dog shit and I help him."
It really illustrates the disconnect, doesn't it? She remained in deep denial about her debts. $5 million, always expecting some deal around the corner to fix everything, continued exploiting her Harrods account. Staff turnover was incredibly high, mainly due to her screaming fits, screaming on the phone at people, manipulation. Staff often had to choose between their families and Sarah. Sounds toxic.
Yeah.
There's also the detail of her renting a £3 million house for £8K a month but never living in it, costing £50K. And the sheer wastefulness demanding huge amounts of meat nightly for herself and the girls, most of it just thrown away.
A striking picture of excess and denial. Meanwhile, Prince Andrew, despite all the turmoil, seemed to continue a relatively comfortable life within the royal structure. His naval career, for instance, continued pretty much unimpeded.
Yes, it did. Despite claims his appraisals were consistently below average lowest mark for intelligence, 6 out of 10, later mysteriously raised, he got glowing reports, suggests institutional protection. It was even alleged his private secretary arranged for an Oxford grad to ghostwrite a major paper for Andrew to pass a course. Extraordinary measures to keep him going.
And his living situation certainly wasn't hurt. Sunninghill, their wedding gift house, became legendary for its design, collecting nicknames like South York, Dallas Palace, Tesco Towers, Happy Eater Hall.
The interior was equally distinct. Andrew's study had fake books carved from wood and Aladdin's cave for gifts. The master bedroom had one of the world's largest walk-in wardrobes. The bathroom dubbed HMS Fergie by builders.
HMS Fergie.
Beyond decor, it was a fortress. Blast-proof walls, panic buttons, bomb shelter, £300,000 annual guarding cost. After the divorce, Sarah eventually moved into a luxurious apartment at Royal Lodge where Andrew lives. A family friend said, "You couldn't shift her with dynamite." Underscores her enduring presence in his life and home.
So Andrew's path, despite scandals and flaws, continued to be insulated, even enhanced by his royal position. This really comes into focus with his later role as a special representative for UK trade and investment. Sounds like a role almost tailor-made for his privilege and connections.
It really was, very much created for him. Promoted to commander in '98, took up this new post in naval staff, focusing on naval diplomacy. The unique part was that being royal was seen as an asset, opening doors in developing countries, the Far East. Despite planning to leave after 20 years, he signed up for another possible 14. Prince Charles reportedly talked to admirals to keep him in the Navy's structure, perhaps hoping to contain his impulses.
That's quite something Charles trying to keep him structured. But this role also earned him that unflattering nickname, HBH, His Buffoon Highness, among diplomats. What specific things led to that?
Well, his behavior often caused huge diplomatic frustrations. He frequently ignored official briefs, thinking himself an expert on everything. His boorish behavior was notorious. An ambassador's wife, resembling Sarah, became the butt of schoolboy jokes by Andrew, who even suggested she touched him up under the table.
Oh, my goodness.
Consistently ignored advice from the Department of Trade and Industry. His visits came with reams of instructions about his likes and dislikes, room temp water, specific foods. Once in Bahrain, he outright refused to speak to the British business community, patted the ambassador's head, and said it was his job, not Andrew's, to promote business. Just profound disrespect.
Sounds like deep arrogance and disregard for duties. And this tendency to mix business with pleasure extended into controversial associations that further damaged his image.
Absolutely. Openly accused of exploiting his public position to develop his own business activities, often associating with crooks and tyrants. His travel was lavish, often taxpayer-funded. $6K helicopter for a 17-mile trip, $4K RAF jet for golf instead of a $254 commercial flight. Critics called him a small bomb threatening to detonate in the bosom of the royal family.
You can see why. Prince Charles was reportedly so worried he tried to block the role altogether, fearing a disaster waiting to happen. And indeed, the controversial deals started emerging.
They did. The sale of Sunninghill to Timur Kulibayev, a Kazakh billionaire oil tycoon, for £3 million over the asking price. Leaked email showed Andrew's aide discussing interior design, trying to lease nearby fields for him. Deeply troubling links with Tarek Kaitouni, a convicted Libyan gun smuggler who paid for Andrew's holiday in Tunisia. Kaitouni then boasted of influencing Andrew. Andrew lobbied the King of Bahrain to help David and Jonathan Rowland launch a Middle Eastern bank, where Andrew was planned to have a stake. The Rowlands called themselves exclusive advisor to HRH in all his business interests.
So a very clear, disturbing pattern of leveraging royal connections for direct financial gain. A source at Eris Capital suggested a fair commission would be 1% or around €5 million for introductions. And leaked emails revealed his aide passed a diplomatic cable on his private talks with Chinese politicians to the Rowlands, a profound breach of trust.
This went way beyond a trade envoy role, raised serious ethical, even national security questions. After that role ended, Andrew set up Pitchett Palace, supposedly connecting entrepreneurs with investors. He saw himself as an ideas factory, like Prince Albert in the Industrial Revolution, but digital.
But even this venture had major controversy. Rich Wilson alleged Pitchett Palace was a vehicle for Prince Andrew to enrich himself, claiming it asked for a 2% commission on investments. Registered at Buckingham Palace a breach of royal protocol against commercial use. Profits of $1.2 million by March 2020 just intensified scrutiny.
He was also accused of inflating job creation figures. Plus, one sponsor, Chinese company iFlyTech, was linked to persecution of minority Muslims in China. raised huge ethical questions about his funding and associations. These ventures just underscored a willingness to commercialize his status, often with deeply problematic partners at huge reputational risk.
Which brings us to perhaps the most significant, ultimately defining factor in his public disgrace: his association with Jeffrey Epstein. This was the web that truly sealed his downfall.
Indeed. Andrew's association with Epstein became the defining element, overshadowing everything else. Introduced via Ghislaine Maxwell, Andrew's friend, sometimes lover, Andrew claimed 99, others like Hoffenberg said 91. Epstein reportedly used Andrew as a useful idiot for access and respectability. Andrew was drawn by the wealth, women, lavish lifestyle.
A mutually beneficial but ultimately catastrophic relationship. A friend noted Maxwell manipulated him. He was too naive to realize. Went from couch potato to man about town under her influence, endless holidays, a lifestyle far from royal duty.
Visits to Epstein's residences became a huge point of concern, especially after Epstein's conviction. Reports of Andrew staying there, seen with young women. There's that disturbing anecdote. Andrew visits Epstein's island with a brain surgeon in her 30s. Later claimed, chuckling, to have urinated on her foot after a sea urchin sting, saying, "The royal member has done its duty." If true, speaks volumes.
That's a chilling detail, and not just private islands. Epstein and Maxwell even visited Balmoral in '99 with friends, including a model in her 20s.
Andrew gave a tour, but staff recalled him becoming incandescent with rage over improperly cut picnic meat, prompting knowing glances from staff used to his tantrums. Bizarre priorities. These incidents painted a picture of someone oblivious to, or maybe complicit in, Epstein's world. Then came the infamous 2001 photo. Brought direct allegations of sexual misconduct with a minor into the open. Andrew with Virginia Giuffre and Ghislaine Maxwell. Giuffre's story was harrowing. Fled after Epstein suggested she carry his baby. Came forward after seeing photos of Andrew and Epstein in Central Park.
And her claims were devastating. Sexual encounters with Andrew in London, New York, the Caribbean. One account. Sitting on his knee, him putting his hand on her breast. The photo's authenticity is considered overwhelming. Experts, witnesses, date stamp from 2001, virtually impossible to dispute.
A powerful piece of evidence. A former royal protection officer recalled Andrew hurling abuse at guards at Buckingham Palace. Seeing a constant stream of female visitors, including Maxwell, even Caprice Bure, shows a pattern within palace walls.
All culminating in that truly disastrous Newsnight interview in 2019. A car crash, a PR debacle. Remarkable that his team, including Private Secretary Amanda Thirsk, thought it could clear the air, despite objections from his mother's experienced communications secretary. What went so wrong?
Their confidence was incredibly misplaced. The producer, Sam McAllister, said Andrew seemed open, confident, energetic, thick-skinned beforehand. Remarkable misjudgment. During the interview, denied meeting Giuffre, offered the widely mocked Pizza Express and Woking alibi, claimed a peculiar medical condition meant he couldn't sweat, disproved by photos. Crucially, zero empathy for Epstein's victims. Regretted staying with Epstein only as a member of the royal family, not out of moral conviction.
Riddled with immediate contradictions. Claimed no contact after 2010, emails show 2011. Denied partying or being tactile, photos everywhere showed otherwise. A complete public unraveling on live TV. Masterclass in how not to handle a crisis.
The backlash was immediate, immense, unforgiving. Calls to step down from all public roles. Sued by Giuffre in the U.S. His team tried discrediting her and the photo, but evidence mounted, compounding things. Epstein's brother hired a pathologist, Dr. Baden, found injuries consistent with strangulation, casting doubt on the suicide verdict. Plus, the Amy Robach hot mic leak, ABC News squashed a Giuffre interview in 2015, maybe to protect Fertie's reputation over Andrews. Intriguing media politics.
Fascinating, ethically complex detail. Ultimately, Andrew settled the lawsuit reportedly over £10 million Feb 2022. Effectively accepted Giuffre suffered as an established victim of abuse, though without admitting liability. What were the consequences?
Swift and severe. Stripped of military affiliations, patronages, stopped using HRH style in 22, Queen's approval, social media deleted, royal family website page rewritten in past tense, remained Duke of York, Knight of the Garter, but public role effectively over. Least popular royal. Financial scrutiny continued. $750K payment allegation from businessman seeping passport, questions about properties, watches, cars. And acquaintance said he floats serenely, without any visible means of support.
And relationships with nephews suffered hugely. Heated argument, punches reportedly thrown with Harry in 2013. Harry allegedly threatened to kill him. William reportedly calls him a tosser, wants him evicted from Royal Lodge. A comprehensive personal and institutional downfall. Okay, we've covered a huge amount there. Before we move on, if you're finding these insights compelling, now's a great moment to support the deep dive. Please like, subscribe, and share this deep dive with your friends. Your support really helps us keep bringing these explorations to you. Join Allison Knows on Spotify and YouTube to become part of our community. Right, let's turn back to Sarah Ferguson. While Andrew's story went from controversy to disgrace, Sarah's post-divorce life has been this relentless pursuit of reinvention, often a complex mix of commercial ventures and media exploitation.
That's a really accurate way to put it. Her LinkedIn now calls her a global humanitarian businesswoman, best-selling children's book author, producer, and wellness advocate. Reflects her constant attempts to redefine herself, find new income streams, relevance. One of her earliest, most high-profile deals was Weight Watchers spokesperson, 500-pound K over 3 years, stipulated she stay under 10 stone. Highlights the intense focus on her image.
Significant commitment. She also ventured into numerous endorsements: jewelry, linen, fragrances, cutlery, candles. Launched her own Duchess Inc. brand, Majestic Linens, Ginger and Moss premium brand sold via QVC. And her first novel, Her Heart for a Compass, inspired by her great-great-aunt, reportedly sold rights for an astonishing $1.9 million. Rumors of a Hollywood film before it was even written.
These efforts show her consistent drive to commercialize her royal association, but this path also led to reality TV appearances that became PR debacles. The Duchess in Hull, 2008, living with a family, offering health advice on a budget, criticized for nerves about their food, wanting her own cook, staged elements.
And The Duchess on the Estate, 2009, 10 days on a crime-ridden Manchester estate, similarly panned. Accused of patronizing residents, planting tulips, cups of tea, using their misery for publicity, claimed she could sleep anywhere but stayed at a guest house. Hypocrisy accusations.
Exactly. These ventures often highlighted a perceived disconnect, a self-serving motive, undermining her image rehab attempts. Public complaints about 300-pound K taxless money for her daughter's St. James's Palace apartment showed scrutiny continued. But maybe the most damaging PR debacle for Sarah, linking back to Andrew, was the fake chic sting in 2010.
Yes, caught on tape by the News of the World, wasn't she? Offering introduction services, essentially selling access.
She was caught on video offering access to Andrew, then UK Special Representative, for £500,000. Claimed she could open any door. Explicitly said, "Look after me and he'll look after you. You'll get it back tenfold." Blatant attempt to sell influence via her ex-husband. Took a $40 K down payment in a computer bag, supposedly for her assistant, insisted on 1% commission for charity, just muddied the waters.
And the irony that Amy Robach leak revealed ABC News squashed a Giuffre interview in 2015, possibly to benefit Fergie's reputation over Andrew's, shows how media decisions were entangled in their complex narratives.
Fascinating insight into media dynamics. Throughout all this, Sarah's fundamental financial challenges remained a constant burden. By 95, debts over $5 million. By 2010, revelations of 200 debtors, $204 million owed. Owed $5K to a complementary medicine practitioner, $65K to a personal trainer she rarely used. Ran up $51K at Selfridges, used Queen's mail service for £6 5K bill, petrol card confiscated. Public symbols of her woes.
And staff often bore the brunt. A sacked staff member revealed greed and wastefulness, demanding huge nightly meat banquets for her and daughters, mostly wasted. Staff accounts make you feel $1 million one minute, then trample you into the dirt the next. Tantrums, screaming, toxic environment.
Very challenging. Beyond business, she made headlines for associations and cosmetic changes. Famously told Piers Morgan she was in love. It's Tiger Woods. Cooing about his gorgeousness, underwent procedures with Dr. Lookgood, Botox, collagen, lasers. Treated by celeb surgeon Dr. Jean-Louis Sebag, consulted testosterone queen Dr. Cecilia Tregear to look younger for Beatrice's 18th. Constant battle against aging publicly.
And controversial associations like Dr. Johnny Han, Baron of Houston, non-exec director at Gate Ventures, a Hong Kong VC firm where Sarah was on the board, raised eyebrows.
Yes, led to high court action, claims of misleading info, lavish spending. Han charged nearly $3 million expenses in 16 months, $4K piano lesson, $16K Bastille Day reception, £10 meeting Prince Harry, $8K tea with Duchess. Judge deemed inappropriate. Plus, Han had close links to China's political elites, Communist Party's United Front system, raised MI5 FBI concerns, even discussed investing in North Korea's mines, funding nuclear programs. Deeply problematic connection.
An intricate web personal choices, financial desperation, even geopolitics. Yet despite controversies, Sarah consistently cultivated this image as global humanitarian, wellness advocate, continuing charity work. What does this reveal?
A profound duality, maybe. Constant attempt to balance bad press with philanthropy, a genuine desire to do good. Continued with children in crisis, mixed results on paid bills. Pledged money for a clinic in Romania for Duchess and Hull, funds delayed. Launched Sarah's Trust 2020, promising 20% book sales to charity. Uses her profile for causes plastic-free nappies, Teenage Cancer Trust. Consistent, if uneven, commitment.
So even with controversies, she maintains charitable presence. Her self-perception and media narrative are contradictory too, right? Photographed in a sheet for the Times, interviewer found her personable, curious, without guile. Sympathetic picture.
Yet contradictory claims, huge mental breakdown from postnatal depression for 7 years, contradicted memoir. Inconsistent claims about her mother, previously brilliant, later hinted abuse, sister refuted. Dramatically walked out of Australian 60 Minutes when confronted with fake sheet video. Difficulty facing uncomfortable truths publicly.
Quite the exit. Despite scrutiny, some journalists like Liz Jones defend her as every woman, applauding self-sufficiency, openness about cancer diagnosis 2024, seeing her encouraging others.
Paul Burrell called her a survivor, but also a little girl brought into a sweet shop who abused everything. Mixed assessment. She describes herself aspirationally. Global mother, I am smart, I am special, thoughtfulness is my middle name. Still publishing A Most Intriguing Lady, 2023, hopes for TV series. Constant dynamic narrative of controlling image, rebuilding fortunes. This deep dive really shows the intricate human side, doesn't it? Even in privileged lives. That complex dance between character and public expectation. If you're finding these insights valuable, please remember to like, subscribe, and share the deep dive with your friends. Find Allison Knows on Spotify and YouTube. Okay, as we enter the final act here, it becomes so clear that for all their individual dramas, Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson are bound by this incredibly complex, enduring relationship, one defined by an almost unconventional interdependence.
That's right. Despite divorce, public humiliations, toe-sucking, fake chic Sarah has consistently been Andrew's most loyal supporter. Reportedly a mediator between him and the king, described as a deepest form of friendship, defies expectations of ex-spouses. And Andrew, in turn, stayed loyal to her, reportedly feels deep guilt about initial neglect, even after she publicly humiliated him. Very unusual dynamic. Though Ross Benson, a journalist close to Sarah, noted Andrew often failed to offer real comfort when she was criticized, retreating to watch golf videos. Sarah felt it an insult, said he wasn't strong enough, never there when I need him. Highlights the paradox.
It does highlight that paradox. Deep loyalty, but maybe a lack of robust emotional support from Andrew, creates a unique dynamic. Their living arrangements testify to this. Sarah moved into that luxurious apartment at Royal Lodge where Andrew lives, runs her office from the billiards room, effectively under the same roof. That friend saying you couldn't shift her with dynamite shows her entrenched presence.
And speculation about remarriage went on for years, something they didn't discourage. Andrew said in 2000, "I don't rule remarriage out, and I certainly don't rule it in." His parents, the Queen and Philip, reportedly furious about her living there, offered to pay for her to rent elsewhere, but Andrew stood firm. Shows the depth of their connection, his defiance.
Speaks volumes, doesn't it? About their bond and his defiance. At its core, their relationship is driven by mutual needs. A friend said, Andrew is nothing without a woman. Sweet, but clunky and gauche. Needs someone who knows what she wants. Navigate his life.
For Sarah, Royal Association, even post-divorce, provided security and validation she consistently sought.
Which brings us to the broader implications. The immense weight of royal status, public perception. Both repeatedly accused of exploiting their positions for personal gain, constant scrutiny over lavish lifestyles, questionable finances.
A central theme. Andrew's post-disgrace life, described as living in denial. Writing, golf, reading thrillers, The Talented Mr. Ripley. Obsessed with aviation videos. Health, not good. Looks older.
No.
Toll of his downfall. And the cycle continues, even to the next generation.
You mean with Eugenie and Beatrice? Yes. They now face scrutiny over their business ventures, appearances at international forums. Beatrice, at World Economic Forum in Saudi Arabia, Abu Dhabi presented as modern, accessible face of the monarchy. But still raises questions about commercializing connections, benefiting from status. Controversy over celebrity access to Buckingham Palace, to Beckham's daughter's party, Kevin Spacey on Coronation Throne. Critics say it devalues what the place is all about.
Highlights that ongoing tension between private privilege and public expectation. And when we look at their individual flaws and behaviors, the sources are quite detailed, painting a consistent picture. Andrew, arrogant individual, boorish, creepy, sleazy.
The anecdotes illustrate it. Hitting a policeman speeding into Buckingham Palace. Staking for intruder yelling, "Don't you know who I am?" Evicting bodyguard from clean seat to lookout window. More disturbing, asking a woman just met for a blowjob. Insisting on naked massages, asking masseuses about sex lives, anal sex jokes. Staff member recalled him saying, "You fucking imbecile, get out," to an officer. Not isolated incidents, a pattern of entitlement turning into arrogance.
A very consistent, troubling picture. Sarah, on the other hand, still described as manipulative, childlike, gullible, exhausting company, yet paradoxically also big-hearted, full of energy, enthusiastic, having a genuine gift with disabled youngsters, like with Bosnian refugees.
Contrasting descriptions underscore her complexity. Why she elicits such mixed reactions, both flaws and strengths. Much detail comes from the upcoming book, entitled by Andrew Lowney, 2025, a primary source for this deep dive.
Notable that the Yorks reportedly tried to block it, sending threatening legal letters, speaks volumes about the sensitivity, their efforts to control the narrative.
The book's based on vast sources. Interviews, on-off record, 60-plus years, media, court docs, diaries, letters, central argument. Their fault wasn't just media pressure, but fundamentally the flaws in their own characters and how they leveraged their privileged position with the connivance of the institution itself. That broader theme is critical.
Which brings us to implications for the monarchy. Their scandals consistently brought disrepute, raised uncomfortable questions about conduct, accountability, future role of non-working royals.
The Andrew problem was long-running, significant, deeply damaging, cast a long shadow, required difficult decisions, lasting impact seen in modern reflections. Netflix's Scoop, 2024, dramatizing the interview. Amazon Prime's A Very Royal Scandal, 2024. These ensure their narrative, and the questions it raises about power, privilege, responsibility continue to resonate.
We've covered so much today, exploring these intertwined lives. If you found these insights valuable, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share the deep dive with your friends. You can find Allison Knows on Spotify and YouTube. As we conclude, it's clear the stories of Andrew and Sarah are far more than tabloid fodder. They're a complex tapestry of privilege, early influences, insecurities, public missteps. Their journey highlights how immense royal status, individual flaws, and relentless media glare can lead to downfall, and, for Sarah, surprising, if controversial, resilience. They navigated a world where every move was scrutinized, often with devastating consequences for their image and the institution.
Their lives are a powerful case study in modern challenges for public figures and institutions. Raises profound questions about accountability, ethics of leveraging position, tension between private desires and public duty. For you, the learner, understanding their narrative offers richer context for interpreting news about celebrity, power, evolving role of traditional institutions.
So, considering that relentless cycle of reinvention, controversy, attempts at image rehab, and insights from Entitled, what truly defines a fall from grace in the public eye? And can one ever truly reclaim a lost reputation, especially when past actions cast such long, indelible shadows? Thank you for listening to the Allison Knows podcast. Follow Allison on Blue Sky, YouTube, and TikTok.